A very warm welcome to Africa Good Morning, a show that keeps you abreast with the latest happenings across the continent and beyond. My name is Aina Raizakweyo alongside Diana Master. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Fantastic.
You look lovely in yellow.
Thank you.
Up the screen.
Thank you very much.
Let's get into what you can expect in today's broadcast. It's Not My Song. Malema hits back at outrage, sponsored by Zambia over Kill the Boer. Nigeria cuts electricity to Niger after coup. And Rwanda imposes curfew to curb noise pollution. We'll also be bringing you news from Zambia with Mike Sichula later on in the show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with our top stories after this break.
In our top stories this morning, it is Not My Song. Malema hit back at outrage sponsored by Helen Zille over Kill the Boer. Economic freedom fighters leader Julius Malema says he will not stop singing the Kill the Boer chant amid backlash from political parties and some members of the public. Malema came under fire for singing the controversial apartheid struggle chant during the EFF's birthday rally, which was attended by more than 100,000 supporters at FNB Stadium in Johannesburg over the weekend. The Democratic Alliance has since filed charges against Malema with the United Nations Human Rights Council. The Freedom Front Plus had also laid charges with the police. Speaking during a media briefing on Wednesday, Malema said he was not going to over-explain himself on why he sings the chant, as he had already done so in court.
Now getting into our next story, Nigeria, Nigeria has cut its electricity supply to Niger. AFP learned on Wednesday from a source close to the management of the Nigerian electricity company, Nigelec, in line with the sanctions decided by the West African neighbors of Niger, destabilized by a coup. Nigeria disconnected since yesterday the high voltage line that carries electricity to Niger, the source said. A Niger-led agent for his part indicated that the capital Niamey was supplied thanks to local production. On Sunday, the Economic Community of West African States, led by Nigerian President Bola Tinubu, decided on sanctions against the putschists who toppled President-elect Mohamed Bazoum a week ago. In addition to a one-week ultimatum to restore constitutional order and the suspension of financial transactions with Niger, ECOWAS decreed the freezing of all service transactions, including energy transactions. According to a report by Nigelec, the country's sole supplier, in 2022, 70% of Niger's share of electricity came from purchases from the Nigerian company Mainstream.
In our next story, Rwanda imposes curfew to curb noise pollution. Rwanda has imposed a curfew on all non-essential services to reduce what the government calls noise pollution, a move that has angered nightclub owners who says it will hurt their business. The effective regulation of nighttime entertainment and noise pollution, the cabinet established closing time of non-essential services at 1 a.m. on working days and 2 a.m. on weekdays, effective the 1st of September 2023. The government announced late Tuesday. Under the hardline rule of President Paul Kagame, police in the East African nations have been cracking down on noise pollution, ordering bars to close and confiscating equipment from entertainment venues.
Now in some news from Ghana, 20 people died when a boat capsized in Ugandan waters on Lake Victoria on Wednesday morning, police said, as rescuers and local residents searched for survivors. So far, 20 people have been confirmed dead and 9 rescued, the Uganda police force said. The boat was carrying charcoal, fresh food and fish when the accident occurred, the police said. The cause of the accident is attributed to overloading and bad weather, they added, saying that around 34 people were believed to be on board. We appeal to members members of the public who travel on waters to always wear life jackets and not to overload their vessels. Africa's largest lake has witnessed many boat disasters, with the accidents often blamed on overcrowding and poor weather. 32 people died in November 2018 after a pleasure boat sank on Lake Victoria during bad weather, with Uganda police saying the vessel had more than 90 revelers on board. In September that year, hundreds died when the MV Nyerere passenger ferry sank on the Tanzanian side of Lake Victoria. With a surface area of 70,000 square kilometers, oval-shaped Lake Victoria is roughly the size of Ireland and is shared by Tanzania, Uganda and Kenya.
In our final story, Joburg CBD explosion explained methane gas identified as the cause. On Wednesday, City Manager Floyd Brink said the investigation in the inner city Joburg explosion had been complete, with methane gas identified as the cause. The investigation into the Lillian Ngoyi and Bree Streets explosion was conducted by a specialized team consisting of fire specialists, international engineers, structural experts, and professionals in occupational health and safety. Brink addressed concerns over the city's internal capacity to handle such disasters, saying the level of expertise required to deal with the aftermath cannot be maintained in-house. While the city's existing technical skills are deemed competent, specialized skills are also required in this case, hence leveraging private sector knowledge and international expertise.
Stick around after the break. We return with news from Zambia with Mike Sichula. Now, Israeli citizens entering Zambia will no longer need a visa, according to the government. Here to give us the story and more is Mr. Mike Sichula. Good morning, Mr. Sichula.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning.
Right, now a few days ago we did report that President Hakainde Hichilema was meeting up with the Israeli president. Was this one of the outcomes discussed?
Yes, you have rightly put it. President Hakainde Hichilema announced this after he had, during the Zambia Business Forum at Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs auditorium, in which he said the long process of acquiring a visa is an impediment to development between the two nations. So this has created a situation where President Hakainde Hichilema is saying that must be waived, and it is now official. The president has mentioned, and that now is remaining for the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Minister of Home Affairs to put it into practice. The president says that he focused on the opportunities in Zambia's agriculture sector and other related fields like water harvesting and irrigation during the forum, which he hopes Israeli nationals are going to come to Zambia and not only invest in Zambia, but there must be a transfer of knowledge from Israeli nationals coming to invest into Zambia and Zambia's nationals that are going to partner with Israeli investors coming to set up businesses in different sectors of the economy. So the president also he also repeated a call for openness in investment and also for investors coming to Zambia to develop the country's agriculture sector in order for Zambia to become a leading contributor to global food security. that is what some of the things the president said in his 3-day state visit to the holy nation, Israel.
All right, Master Sichula, moving over to your next story. Approximately 87 different types of medications have been withdrawn from the market by authorities. Why is that?
According to the ZAMRA Director General, Makomi Singaya, he says the quality, safety, and efficacy of the recalled product is not guaranteed. So this is what they have stated. And the recalled products include injections, tablets, coughing syrups, capsules, and ornaments, among other items. So the number of items recalled has now risen to actually 102. So the agency has been conducting on the spot.
Well, we do apologize for the technical difficulties. It seems that we lost Mr. Mike Sichula there, but just to touch on some of the stories, Israeli citizens, as he highlighted, entering Zambia will no longer need a visa, according to the government, and approximately 87 different types of medications have been withdrawn by the authorities from the local market. And in northwestern Zambia, a stone weighing more than 40 kilograms is said to have fallen from the sky. And in some sports news from Zambia, striker Margaret Muntali of the hockey women's national team has been injured and will not play in the next test series against Zimbabwe. Now, moving right along, the Cancer Association of Namibia and the South African Bone Marrow Registry this week announced their partnership, which coincides with the National Cancer Awareness Week, observed during the first week of August annually. Zahir Isaacs from SABMR emphasized the need to diversify the list of stem cell donors and called on eligible Namibian citizens between the ages of 16 and 45 to register as a donor. Let's take a look at this next video.
To find a stem cell donor when you have leukemia or a blood cancer, it's a 1 in 100,000 chance to find your match out in the general population. Within your family, with your siblings, there's a 25% chance of finding a match. Once that is exhausted, the numbers climb immediately. Unrelated, 1 in 100,000, but that only rings true if you're Caucasian. If you're a person of color in Africa or anywhere in the world, that can jump up to 1 in 400,000 to find a match in the world. Because the way the HLA, it's called human leukocyte antigen, we have to match that up. It's so diverse, but we inherited along racial lines. So it might not be that we have rare antigens, it's more about lack of representation on the global stage. Because in the world, more than 42,000 donors exist or have signed up, of which 80% or 70% are Caucasian. So there's a lack of representation. So when myself, or let's say Kushi gets ill, it's very difficult to find a match. And we need more people, more young people of color to sign up. Namibia specifically, because genetically it is quite unique as well.
But the reality is this, there might be a Namibian out there who would be in need of stem cells. And if we do not build on our own registry, how could we ever ask anyone to help our own people? Therefore, I implore you, fellow Namibians, please consider to become a donor. Please register, or please contact the Cancer Association, and we'll sign you up, get you swabbed, and help you to help others.
In our economic news this morning, with the spoiling goods, Niger truckers feel early sting of coup sanction. Nigerian driver Amodo Monkaila was en route to deliver a truckload of onions to Ghana when last week's military coup forced him to do a U-turn and return to the capital Niamey as borders slammed closed. Now he is among scores of drivers stranded in limbo with perishable products as a result of the stiff sanctions imposed by Niger's regional and international partners after the military takeover. The consequences are disastrous. If left on the truck, the onions have at most a week before they rot, said Monkila on Wednesday at the depot on the outskirts of Niamey, where drivers were handled discussing what to do with their cargoes.
Now, Johnson & Johnson talc cancer plaintiffs want a 6-month ban on further bankruptcy filings. Lawyers of thousands of people who claim Johnson & Johnson's talc-based powders caused them to develop cancer on Wednesday urged a U.S. judge to temporarily block the company from seeking bankruptcy protection for a third time for its talc subsidiary. J&J's attempt at resolving thousands of cancer lawsuits in bankruptcy court stumbled for a second time last week when a judge ruled that the talc subsidiary LTL management was not in the kind of immediate financial distress necessary to trigger bankruptcy protection. While J&J intends to appeal that ruling, cancer claimants and the U.S. Department of Justice's bankruptcy watchdog asked U.S. bankruptcy judge Michael Kaplan in Trenton, New Jersey, to block the company from filing for bankruptcy a third time for at least 180 days. LTL's bankruptcy proceedings have largely paused the 38,000 lawsuits against J&J, although one case was allowed to proceed to an $18.8 million verdict in July. Johnson & Johnson has said its talc products are safe and do not contain asbestos. During a Wednesday court hearing, LTL attorney Greg Gordon countered that the company would strongly resist any request to prejudge a potential future bankruptcy before it could be filed. That brings us to the end of our economic news. Let's take a look at the economic indicators proudly brought to you by Bank Fintech before we get into the sports package with Ari Hogad.
Welcome to Active Kids, a daily TV show that sparks creativity, learning, and fun for young minds. With exciting activities and lessons, Active Kids inspires curiosity and a love for learning.
New face to the 15.
The perfect mix of play and education. Don't miss out on the fun. Tune into Active Kids on NTV every weekday at 10 o'clock and let the adventure begin.
Good day, everyone. Time for international sports news, and starting off with netball news first. The Netball World Cup continues in Cape Town. Very exciting tournament at the moment, and teams are trying to get into the semi-final for the playoffs for the World Cup. But that will be over the weekend. Big result, that was on Thursday, a big result for Jamaica. They beat defending champions New Zealand quite convincingly by 59 points to 48. That's a big statement made by Jamaica, beating them by 11 points. And is Jamaica, that's the Commonwealth champions, and the earlier also had a big victory over South Africa, the host. And Jamaica, one of the favourites now, will be into the semi-finals definitely. It's also New Zealand that drew their game on Wednesday against South Africa. Dramatic game. It ended 48 points each to both the teams, and it was South Africa that came back from being 6 goals down with 12 minutes to go. South Africa still have an uphill battle if they want to go through to the semi-finals. At the moment, it looks like Jamaica and New Zealand that will go through. Also, it is England and Australia that's on the other side, very competitive and favourites to play in the semi-finals. What happened when New Zealand or when Australia played against England, it was very competitive as well on Thursday, extremely competitive. In fact, it was England that won 56 points to 55, significant result, and probably those two teams will meet in the semi-final or maybe even in the final in the rest of the tournament. Continuing international sports news, that is with tennis news. It is a DC Open that continues. That is in Washington, D.C. in America. And it is on the WTA and the ATP side, both the men and women playing in this tournament. On the men's side is number 1 seed Taylor Fritz of the United States. He's through to the next round. That was in the round of 16. He had a victory. He will play in the quarterfinals. He beat Zacharias Vatia and he beat him by 6-3 and 6-3 to go through. Also, Andy Murray, he's a veteran of world tennis. He's from Great Britain. He's 15th seed. He beat Brendan Nakashima. He is from the United States by 7-6 and 6-4 to also advance to the quarterfinals. And then number 2 seed Frances Tiafoe of United States, also still in the tournament. On the women's side of the draw, it is Elena Svitolina. She is from the Ukraine. She was quite in the news in Wimbledon quite recently, did well in that tournament going to the semi-finals. And she beat Daria Kasatkina from Russia, and that was in the round of 16, the score 6-2 and 6-2. And also it is Coco Gauff of United States. She's number 3 seed, safely through, and that was also a round of 16 games. She beat Hailey Baptile, and the score there 6-1 and 6-4. The number 1 seed in this tournament is Jessica Pegula, and she will be also be in action in the quarterfinals of this tournament. That is Jessica Pegula of the United States. Closing off today's international sports news with rugby news. Lots of friendly rugby games, tests being played this weekend, and it is to leading up. That is, of course, for the World Cup in France that will start in a few weeks' time or in a month's time in France. That will be on the 8th of September. It will be Scotland that will host France, France that will play in Edinburgh, and that is good news for France or for Scotland is that Finn Russell, he will captain them from number 10, and also 2 South Africans that will strengthen the team. That is back in the Scotland team, or South African born players rather. It is Diane van der Merwe that will play on the wing, and also Pierre Schoeman that will play in the front row on the Lucette side of the scrum. Also Wales that will host England, and that is going to be played at Cardiff. And then it is Ireland that hosts Italy, and the news from the Ireland team is that Johnny Sexton is still serving a suspension. He won't be in action of any of the warm-up games for Ireland leading up to the World Cup in France. Then also in New Zealand, it is the host New Zealand that will play against Australia, and a tough task there for Eddie Jones to have Australia come back to winning ways again. They lost their last 3 test matches that they've played. And then, of course, it's South Africa that play in Argentina. South Africa that will play against the Argentinians. That's the second of week they play against Argentina. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day, and we talk again international sport tomorrow. Goodbye.
This is Still Africa. Good morning. If you're just joining us, here are the news highlights from today's broadcast. It's Not My Song. Malema hits back at outrage sponsored by Helen Zille over Kill the Boer. Nigeria cuts electricity to Niger after coup. Rwanda imposes curfew to curb noise pollution. 20 confirmed dead in Uganda boat accident. With spoiling goods, Niger truckers feel early sting of coup sanctions.
Those have been our stories. We thank you very much for watching our show this morning. We do welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can paste them on our Twitter and Facebook pages. On that note, it's all our love, all our light. Happy weekend.